Meep, 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 Hi there. Now I know we are entering the age of automation with the AI and robotics that are coming out. All the industries out there will be disrupted by this, and the marketing space has actually been exposed to automation long time ago. But today I want to discover with you what I think is wrong with automation. Hey there and welcome back to another video of MeasureSchool.com, teaching you the data-driven way of digital marketing. My name is Julian, and today we want to talk about what is wrong with automation. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a huge automation fan, especially with email automation, everything that made it possible to scale the businesses that we have in terms of serving people like you out there on YouTube or on different other channels is made possible by automation. I could not do it alone, but it's so much easier with all these tools that are out there. Now I had my fair share of using automation tools, everything from setting up a website to sending out emails, but also in the context of the underlying data that we always try to analyze, we can use a lot of automation to bring insights to our organizations, and these tools are definitely useful. But I'm also a little bit wary of how automation changes our work and why it might not be such a good idea to automate everything right away. So today I want to give you my thoughts on what is wrong with automation. So the first point here is that they go wrong. All the time they go wrong. Now if you think about automation, those are little programs maybe or little scripts that you might have written or put into a system that actually takes up different variables and then sends certain things out automatically or does a task automatically for you. Now these underlying data points, the underlying variables are actually interchangeable, and that's why they're called variables. Now sometimes these variables change too much or the underlying system changes too much, so your automation breaks, and that happens all the time if they are not set up robustly. So if you think of Google Tag Manager, we have a lot of data going into such a system, and then we deploy our tracking automatically. We don't have to build that into the system ourselves and think about the automation in that sense anymore, and therefore oftentimes automation and tracking actually breaks because the underlying databases, maybe your website, changes and nobody has thought about what we need to change and update the tracking for. Now I always encounter this on a weekly basis. I get emails from people who try to download one or the other tracking template that I put out there, and our automation just goes wrong. The data that is flowing into the system sometimes screws up, and it's really hard to find the different little download links and what went wrong, and that's why sometimes I just resort to going back and sending that email out manually, which is definitely not the point of automation, but there's definitely a lot that can go wrong. Now, how can you circumvent that? You need to do a lot of testing. So before you send out any kind of new email automation, you need to be testing this before it actually goes live. The same is true for tracking, or when to send out a dashboard that you have scheduled in your dashboard system. It needs to be always looked at and tested before it goes out to the end customer. So always testing is one of the things that I would definitely recommend when working with automations. Which brings us to our second point. You actually need to maintain it and do a regular checkup. That's true for tracking, that's true for dashboards out there, that's true for email automation and all the other tools that you set up to actually make your work easier. But if you don't look at them anymore, you might not see the immediate result on a daily basis. So a perfect example of this is actually tracking. When we set up Google Tag Manager, we think, oh, this is set it and forget it. But our website changes, the technology is changing all the time, the tools that we install change all the time, and sometimes the tracking can't keep up and suddenly spies out different data from what we had before. And if we don't do regular analysis on our data, we might not see the problem in our automation. So scheduling regular maintenance and checkup points where you look at these different tracking techniques, saying, okay, do I still need this? Is this still working correctly? And should I still be using this, is very important in terms of automizing a process and tracking for that matter as well. Which brings me to the next point is what is wrong with automations. Really, sometimes it's not worth the effort or the time. Now think about not only the setup time, so if you buy a tool or you ask your developer to automate some process that somebody was doing manually, is it really worth it? And what are the things that could go wrong in terms of later maintenance or the checkup that you need to do, or the things that could break down? What are the underlying variables that actually feed into that, and how often do you change these variables, and how often then you need to maintain and check up upon your automation that you put in place? So sometimes I think it's not really worth the time and the effort. Obviously, I'm a huge tech geek and I always look at little scripts and little things that could make things easier, but I could definitely spend my time on more productive things. So sometimes I think, okay, if I can just put this into a checklist, for example, and go through it every week and not forget about it, that will also force me to go through it and maintain what is maybe changing in the process and the underlying variables. So I'll be able to be more flexible with my process with a human involved, really, rather than spending time on automating this process. Which brings us to our last point. Sometimes it's just better to do it yourself. Now, what I mean by this, I have tons of clients who say, hey, can you automate this report for me? I think reporting and insights, if you use them correctly, you can definitely make use of automated reports, go in and look at it and say, okay, here's something that's changed and we need to look at this in a certain context and dig deeper into the data. That makes totally sense. But some people are so new to data, they don't really understand the context of it, and they want to get insights of the later heavily edited report that maybe comes out automized. They can't really interact with that data and have a lot of questions. So what I would recommend for people who are starting out with data is actually pull up a spreadsheet and put the data in yourself. That's how you will notice and ask yourself questions automatically and say, how does this number actually come together and why is this gone up or down? And that's when you will start asking questions, which we actually want as analysts, and then go into your tracking systems and maybe do your own analysis, find out more stuff, and maybe find other tracking mistakes that you have in the system, and this will give you a lot of awareness. Now, at the beginning, I think that is a wonderful step to get familiar with the data that you actually have available. Later on, you can go to the next step and say, okay, I want to automate this report. But going from something that you don't know about to a whole automized report that you may not be able to trust that data as a whole is really, really hard to do and will bring more questions than the before process. So sometimes it's just better to do it yourself. Alright, so these are my thoughts on why and what can go wrong with automations now. Don't get me wrong, I still have tons of tools that automate my processes here. I'd love to hear from you. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment down below. And if you like this video, then give us a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel right over there, because we bring you new videos just like this one every week. Now, my name is Julian. Till next time.